Hey everyone and welcome. Today we're going to dive into something really beautiful, the art of hand embroidery. We're actually going to be using a classic textbook as our guide to learn the absolute essentials, the stitches that are, the building blocks for literally every design out there.
Alright, so here's the plan. First, we'll get into the why of the stitch itself. Then, we'll build our skills, starting with basic lines, moving up to some really cool textured outlines, and then we'll get into filling in patterns. And at the end, we'll take a look at the awesome new toolkit you'll have.
So, first things first, the art of the stitch. I love this idea of thinking of them as the atoms of the craft, right? They're the tiny, fundamental pieces you use to build everything else.
And really, this is where it all begins. Just picture it, that stunning, intricate piece of embroidery you saw somewhere. It all started with just one thread and someone knowing a few of these simple stitches. It's kind of like learning the alphabet before you can write a story. This is the language.
Okay, so let's get our hands dirty with our first group of stitches. These are the real workhorses, the ones you'll use to create the simplest, most fundamental thing you can make, a line. And where else would we start but with the running stitch? I mean, this is the granddaddy of them all. It's probably the first stitch anyone ever learns, and for a really good reason. It's super simple, you can use it for tons of stuff, and it's the foundation for so many other stitches.
Just look at how this works. You can almost feel that rhythm, right? In and out, in and out. And what you get is this really clean, simple dashed line. There's something so elegant about how simple it is, isn't there?
Okay, next up is the back stitch. So if you think of the running stitch as making a dashed line, well, the back stitch gives you a solid one. It's strong, it's continuous, and it's absolutely perfect for when you need a really bold, crisp outline. And the name tells you everything you need to know. It's called a back stitch because that's literally what you do. Your needle comes up, but then it goes back a step before moving forward underneath. It's this cool little back and forth dance that locks the stitches together and makes that solid line.
So here's the side-by-side. It couldn't be clearer, right? Running stitch gets you that dash look. Back stitch is what you want for a solid, strong line. Super simple concept, but you get two totally different effects.
All right, we've got our basic lines down. Let's start building on that. Now we're going to get into stitches that have a bit more personality. They add texture and dimension, creating these really cool kind of rope-like effects.
And here's a great example, the split stitch. This one is amazing for making these thick, braided-looking outlines. The real trick, the magic, is that as your needle comes up, you literally split the thread of the last stitch you made. It gives it this awesome, solid, textured feel. It's great for things like lettering or any outline you want to feel a bit heavier. And then we have this stem stitch. No surprise what this one's good for, right? It's the perfect stitch for flower stems, for vines. You get this beautiful twisted line that just looks amazing, especially when you're working on curves. So you'd pick this when you want something that looks more like a delicate twisted rope, not so much the chunky braid you get from a split stitch. Okay, this is a really cool little tidbit from our textbook. Get this, if you do a line of back stitching and then flip your fabric over, the reverse side looks almost exactly like a stem stitch. It's not just a neat trick, it just shows you how smart and efficient these stitches are and how they're all kind of related.
And you can really see just how versatile it is here. Look at the way it makes those delicate little flower tendrils, or how it creates this elegant border on a sari. You can use it for something cute like a design on a baby bib, or for something bold and graphic. It's just incredibly useful. Okay, so we've got lines covered. We know how to make outlines. So what's next? Well, now we're going to talk about filling things in, how to create solid blocks of color and build an entire picture, not just the outline. And that, of course, brings us to an absolute superstar of the embroidery world, the cross stitch. I love the analogy that each little X is like a pixel in a digital image. You group a bunch of them together, and suddenly you can create these incredibly detailed pictures and patterns. You know, a lot of the appeal of cross-stitch is how methodical it is. It's very structured. You usually start by mapping out your design on graph paper, and then the special fabric you use, this even weave fabric, acts as a built-in grid. It really is like painting by numbers, but with thread. So satisfying. And the way you actually do it is so smart and efficient. You don't make one X at a time. Instead, you go down a whole row, just doing one half of the cross, so you'll have a row of slashes. Then you come back along that same row, crossing each one to finish the X. It's super rhythmic. And this is where the magic really happens. You're just making simple little X's over and over again. But by simply changing the color of your thread, you build up this incredibly rich, complex picture.
It really is pixel art with a needle and thread.
So let's look at a cousin of the cross stitch, the herringbone stitch. The textbook actually calls it a variation, and you can see why, right? It's still a crossing stitch, but instead of the X being all neat and centered, the arms cross at the very top and very bottom, and that creates this gorgeous, long interlocking pattern.
This diagram shows it perfectly. See how it makes that beautiful, almost braided-looking band? It's just fantastic for decorative borders. And here's another one of those cool facts. If you look at the back of a herringbone stitch, what you see are two perfectly parallel rows of running stitches. It's just another reminder of how these stitches are all so elegantly designed.
Okay, last but definitely not least for our fillers, the satin stitch. If you want to fill in a shape with a solid, smooth, almost glossy block of color, this is your stitch. The whole idea is to lay these straight stitches right up against each other, super close, so you can't see any fabric underneath. It's a little tricky, I won't lie. Getting the tension perfect is key. But when you nail it, oh man, you get this beautiful satiny sheen that just makes the whole thing pop. Wow, okay, we've covered a ton of ground, haven't we? We've gone from the simplest dashed lines all the way to these beautiful textured fills. So let's just do a quick recap of this awesome new toolkit of stitches you've got. So what's the big takeaway here? It's that with just these few basic stitches we've talked about, the running stitch, the back stitch, the satin stitch, all of them, you now have the fundamental language. You have the vocabulary to start making your own art with thread. And I think this question here is the perfect one to end on. Which stitch are you going to try first? I really hope this has gotten you excited to pick up a needle and just give it a go. Thanks for joining me.